was trying to figure this out. I'll get better at it someday. Philip broke the silence, saying this with a smile. I didn't get around to saying it, but I have the last line memorized. Seeing Philip beam so proudly made a smile form across my own face, and I waited for him to go on. Oh, princess, I adore you so. My love knows no bounds. I felt a warmth break out from my fingers where he was touching me. I was dead, no doubt about it, but I was so flustered that I felt like I could spring back to life at that instant, at that moment. The prince in the story discovered that all the paper in the world wasn't enough to express his feelings for the princess. So he decided to see the princess in person and let his words and actions tell the rest. That's how it went, wasn't it? Philip said, and I faintly remembered reading that in my favorite novel. It was one I had read a long, long time ago. That story does sound like a novel I read nearly 1,000 years ago, but how could he know that? I never understood the prince in the story could bear it. I'd never be satisfied with just letter poetry. After all, nothing is harder than suppressing the yearnings and longings of a heart in love. Wouldn't you agree? I think so too. Trying to suppress that would be very hard to do. With my hand collapsed over my chest, I nodded in agreement to Philip's words. It really is the hardest thing, more than you might realize. I want you here to stay with me. I don't want you going anywhere else with anybody else. Still, I do want you to be happy in the land of the living where you'd most fit in. I took every effort to keep my thoughts from spilling out. Being so contrary to the situation at hand, it was hard, and it was frustrating. Even then. Listen, if telling someone how you really felt for them would upset them, would you still do it? Well, if it would make them upset, I might hesitate to confess my feelings to them. But even then, I would at least once. I'd still be afraid they'd reject me, but I know I would reject it. I know I would regret it if I didn't at least try. Regret, you say? You're such a strong person, Philip. Not necessarily. There might be times where I have to chicken out. Really? Like when? Good question. I think. Philip folded his arms and gazed into the sky and thought. Watching him made me realize something. I might just have been scared that things would change for the worst. If I told him how I felt, I guess I must have been avoiding the issue without realizing it, all because I was scared. Philip looked at me once more. Seeing the glow of the moon reflected off his eyes made me realize just how much I cared for him. But I'm not going to run away this time. I don't want to wonder what could have been anymore. My mind was made up, and I gazed deeply into Philip's eyes just then. Princess! Princess! I was suddenly startled by Skeletona calling out for me. At the same moment, a strong wind rushed past, and I relatively shut my eyes. Eep! Just a single second later, I opened my eyes to see both Philip and the field had vanished without a trace. The familiar barren plains of Niflheim stretched out in every direction. What? No, wait! This can't be happening! I don't believe it. Seeing the stark emptiness around me made it seem like all that had happened was just a dream. Dejected, I slumped down to the ground. Princess, are you all right? The field, it's gone. This is just a guess, but I believe this may have been a memory spot. This place held some significance to some soul in their living days. A memory spot? Sufficient? How? Well, yes, well, sometimes something or someone with special significance to a person will appear in Niflheim. Usually, these are strongly associated with a special memory. A mix of confusing emotions welled up inside me when I heard Skeletana's explanation. Then, why did it just vanish? Well, there are exceptions. I hear the most common cause is when that person overcomes the regrets of that past memory. Wait, I wasn't the only one here. Does this mean that field came out of my memories? Wait, I was the only one here. Does this mean that field came out of my memories? Listen, Skeletana. Yes, Princess? Just before you shut up, Philip was here with me. What? What? Toppling from the shock, Skeletana fell into a cluttered mess of bones. I thought about what had happened while I reassembled him. So if that place was my memory spot, then why was Philip there? What was Philip trying to tell me back then?